my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, hello, my name is Loey, and today I found something very interesting as I was perusing the internet for something creepy to talk about. Recently I did my first ever like missing person style case, and the only other true crime related video I've ever done was on Jack the Ripper, and it was like last year. But one of the true crime cases I've always been so fascinated by is the case of the Zodiac killer. And I think I'm so fascinated by it because we still haven't caught the guy. Like, it is insane to me that this many years later, we still don't know who he was. And so recently when I found this list of 7 Zodiac killer conspiracy theories, I was hooked immediately and had to come on here and tell you guys all about them. So go ahead and grab your drink, grab your snack. I will be sipping on my LaCroix that everybody loves to roast me for in the comments. Put on your conspiracy hats and let's deep dive into these crazy yet kind of believable Zodiac killer conspiracy theories. If you have been living under a rock and you're not too familiar with the Zodiac killer case, I'll give you a quick little brief lesson in it, although I highly recommend that you watch a full video or read up on the case or something like that before you watch these theories, just so you have a better frame of knowledge. The Zodiac killer was a serial killer that operated in Northern California from the late 1960s into the early 1970s possibly. This killer has never been caught. The murdered victims were in Benicia, Vallejo, Lake Berryessa, and San Francisco between December of 1968 and October of 1969. The first conspiracy is that the Zodiac killer was not actually one person, but 2. And this theory kind of goes off of the possibility that maybe the Zodiac killer, the real Zodiac killer, was the one doing all the legwork, but there was someone else writing the letters, and they could have been working in tandem, they could have been working separately, and neither of them ever collaborated or came together or anything like that. Clearly they must have known of each other, but neither of them really ever came together. Now, this is a bit of a stretch, but somebody like a San Francisco Bay police officer would have had enough gruesome, gory details on this case to have been the one writing those letters. A Reddit user called CRXW wrote this about this theory. It seems to me that the letter writer could not have even known the killer in the shootings of the teenagers in Paul Stein. If the writer had been a cop, he would have been able to accurately describe the crime scenes. He likely also could have ripped off part of Stein's shirt after the body had been taken away. That means he would have had to have been an SFPD officer, but he could have gotten crime scene descriptions from Vallejo too. Maybe the killer could have even been Arthur Lee Allen. Serial killers often work in pairs, which I didn't know that. That is so fascinating. What I find most compelling about this theory is how advantageous it would be for the killers. If the killer was caught, he would be cleared based on the evidence from the letters, since it would be assumed that they were the same person. That theory is really interesting to me. Maybe it really was somebody from the police station, or I don't know, a crazy psycho fan that was truly studying the inner workings of this case and maybe sneaking information from a police officer who was writing those letters. But I have a feeling it was all the same person. I just thought this theory was interesting enough to present to you all. This next theory, I believe, is very, very, very likely. Because if I'm not mistaken, on other videos that I have watched on the story of the Zodiac killer, the Zodiac killer sent in a letter letting the police know that they could have caught him, but they didn't, because they were so focused on catching him that they didn't see him right in front of their faces. This theory is, before I get too ahead of myself, that the police had the Zodiac killer right in front of them and didn't even realize it. Essentially, this came down to supposedly a miscommunication, which had the officers looking for a person of color instead of a Caucasian man. This was after the death of the taxi driver Paul Stein, and police were basically patrolling the area, and while all other investigators and officers and everyone thought that the Zodiac killer was white, these 2 officers for some reason did not get the memo. So 2 officers saw a man walking away from the crime scene but didn't stop him as he didn't fit the description. And I think that better police work in this case could have had them their guy, because anyone who is seen lingering around a crime scene like that is automatically someone who should be suspected, no matter their skin color. And it's just so weird to me that they literally didn't interrogate him based on the color of his skin. This third one is the conspiracy that the Zodiac killer used cement to hide their fingerprints for so long. So in one of the letters, the Zodiac killer actually claimed to have used cement, specifically airplane cement, to prevent fingerprints from being left behind. So I feel like the Zodiac killer kind of threw in random stuff to throw officers off. At one point he claimed he was throwing in false evidence, though now we're not so sure if it was false evidence or just him trying to throw them off of his tracks. But regardless, he himself claimed that he used 2 coats of airplane cement to keep from fingerprints being transferred onto anything, which is why police have never been able to catch him. So that's a really interesting theory that he kind of put right in front of our faces, and I think could be so likely. I mean, how else has he prevented fingerprints from getting on anything? All of those letters, and he somehow prevented every single one from having fingerprints on it, or any kind of DNA at all for that matter. That is wild. Next might be a bit of a stretch, so hang on tight, but there are some people who believe that the Zodiac killer was linked to the Manson family murders. There are people out there who believe that Bruce Dern is the Zodiac killer, and he is part of the Manson family. He is a convicted murderer who was convicted of murders that he committed while he was part of the Manson family, so this isn't exactly something that's too far of a reach. But the theory goes pretty deep, so I'm gonna read it to you straight from the source. He returned to Tennessee, he meaning Bruce Dern, but relocated back to California in 1964, near the time of the San Diego honeymoon murders. He lived in Anaheim, Riverside, Buena Park, Costa Mesa, and spent some time in Newport Beach. Zodiac victim Cherry Joe Bates frequented this location. During this time, he worked as a welder, painter, pipe fitter, general construction worker, longshoreman, farm laborer, bar assistant, road surveyor, and mechanic, finally dropping out of society in November 1966. At the same time the Zodiac wrote the Bates confession letter, Davis became a transient undergrounder. Riverside City College was undergoing a renovation during the years of 1965 to 1967, and it is believed that Davis worked on that project from time to time. Definitely an interesting theory that I think I would have to dig a bit deeper to really confirm or deny, but something very interesting to think about. The 5th theory is that the Zodiac killer actually called into a television show. On October 22nd, 1969, the Zodiac killer actually called into the Oakland Police Department, demanding that either Melvin Belly or Francis Lee Bailey, both lawyers, go on air to appear on Jim Dunbar's show later that day. Of course, everyone agreed and complied with this request, but while they were on the show, somebody called in. He was a man by the name of Sam, and he called into the show, claimed to be the Zodiac killer, and quickly hung up. And police were never able to trace the source of the call.
Talk to us. Just tell us what's going on inside you right now, Sam, please.
I have headache.
Right.
How long have you had those headaches, Sam? In a long time?
Since I killed a kid.
Did you attempt to call this program one other time when Mr. Belli was with us? And you
What?
Did you try to call us one other time about two or 3 weeks ago when Mel Belli was with us?
Yes.
Why did you want to talk to Mr. Belli, Sam?
I don't want to be hurt.
Definitely an interesting theory to say the least here. I believe that most serial killers want to be seen or known in some way without ever getting caught, and that's why a lot of them put themselves at the scene of the crime, or they'll call into TV shows like that, or they'll write those letters, because deep down I think there's a weird desire not to be caught, but just to be recognized for their work, quote unquote. Number 6 is the theory that there was no Zodiac killer. There's a whole blog on this theory and it's called Zodiac Hoax, and this person really deep dives into the theory that I think they truly believe, which is the fact that the Zodiac killer was never real and was just a hoax. And this primarily is based on the idea that only a number of people actually investigating the case believed that there was a Zodiac killer. So why have so many people been convinced for so long? One result of my research was the discovery that in real life, very few people who had direct knowledge of these 4 murder cases actually believed in the Zodiac theory at all. And if you want to go further into this, I of course will have the source link down below, but this person goes on to list only 4 people that they truly believe actually believed in the Zodiac killer. It would definitely make a lot of sense simply because, I mean, there were so many avenues for the police to catch this person and they never did. I mean, there was a call into the police station. He was lingering possibly right around the crime scene. And you really mean to tell me with all of those letters, there hasn't been a single shred of evidence? I don't know, really interesting. But then if that theory stands true, then who committed all of those murders? Were they just a random string of crimes that somebody was linking together to make the public scared? I don't know, an interesting theory, but nonetheless, those crimes did occur. So what are we saying they were instead? Number 7 is the fact that it's possible that Ted Cruz himself is the Zodiac killer. This is obviously a joke. Ted Cruz is not the Zodiac killer. Please don't sue me. He even himself has played into the meme, I guess you could say, by tweeting out one of the Zodiac killer's clues that he had left for police years and years and years prior. There is no way that Ted Cruz is a Zodiac killer. People just genuinely think that because he looks like one of the sketches that was done of the Zodiac killer or who the Zodiac killer could look like. So he's clearly in on the gag, although not a funny gag, I might add. If somebody accused me of being a serial killer, I don't think I'd take it very lightly. What do you guys think of these theories? Let me know in your comments down below. Definitely interested to hear what you all think. I think some of the most interesting ones were the theories linking the Zodiac killers to the Manson family, and also that random one that he was never real at all. Definitely interested to hear you guys' thoughts. Do you know more about this case? I know that I probably shouldn't cover it because so many people have, but if you want to see me cover it completely, let me know, because I would be very interested in doing so. Anyway, thank you all so much for your love and support, and thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you guys so very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!